Welcome to Navigating Now. This is episode 199. And I am here joined by Ashley Clark. We're really excited to have another episode of our Meet the Team series. So, Ashley, welcome to the table.
Thank you. I'm excited to
Yeah.
be here.
And other than excited, like what's one word that like you're coming in with?
I'm going to go with energized. I thought that I would be nervous, but I'm not. I'm just really feel grounded and ready to jump in.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, even if you were a little bit nervous, there's something normal about that. It's like, well, the spotlight's going to be on me and I got to talk about myself. That comes with a lot sometimes, you know?
Sometimes a little bit of
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no pressure here, safe space. Let's dive on in. So you started at Thoughtium. Where are we now? Are we a month in? A little bit more?
Almost two.
Okay.
Yep.
Going on 2.
Yeah.
And what's your role here at Thoughtium?
So I have the joy of building out the business development function here at Thoughtium, which is a really fun way of saying I just get to connect people together and hold the space for them to see if there's a way for us to partner with other teams or organizations, or if not us, then to see if there's somebody else who I know or who someone else knows that we could still solve a problem, but not necessarily localized within Thoughtium.
Mm-hmm. I like how you described business development more from like you're a relationship connector as opposed to like a salesman. So have you been said or told that you're in this sales space, or how does that resonate with you?
So I often like to say that I got tricked into sales. I don't necessarily identify myself as a salesperson. I think there's a bit of my own general bias around that oftentimes it's met more with an agenda than it is focused on a relationship first. And so my goal is really to be a connector of people and relationships and to find different common places where the needs that a team or an organization has can be met with some kind of solution to really help them grow and evolve and become better. So I really don't see my role as being as much of a sales role as it is just developing relationships with a whole bunch of people in a number of different capacities, whether that's the person I sit next to on an airplane or somebody I meet in line at a grocery store or somebody I meet on a more formal business call, and then seeing what are the different places of connection that can happen from there and how can things continue to iterate, grow, and evolve from that place.
I love that. So you start with the relationship solution and I lost you for a moment. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Great.
hear you now. Can you say that again,
Okay.
Nicole?
Yeah, I was reiterating, it sounds like you start with the relationship, the contact first, and then the solution or the product comes second, which is maybe what keeps you from saying that you're a salesman. Because I feel like salespeople, they kind of start with the product and they got to push this to an outcome, if you will.
Yeah, I really want to hear what's important to somebody. What are they trying to achieve? I often call that like, what is your guiding beacon or the vision that you're trying to create? And then from there, crafting a plan to be able to achieve whatever that guiding beacon is or where you're trying to go. And so it isn't as much about a specific product. About like it isn't about a specific thing that I'm trying to sell, but it's more of a how can we help you achieve that vision or that picture that you have in your mind that could really up level a team, that could create more team cohesion, that could create a really powerful experience within an entire organization to come together to rally around some kind of growth or change. But it's really what's that vision first, and then what are the ways that we can go about creating that and making that vision become a reality together.
I love that. So you have me thinking like, who are the people? Maybe it's the companies at large, maybe it's the teams that you like seek out. Maybe who has like the best guiding beacon, or what are you looking for in a conversation?
You know, it's an interesting question because I think a lot of times organizations end up having we work with companies that sit in this kind of space, whether it's technology or manufacturing or life sciences, or they say we work really well with organizations that are this specific size. I think for Thoughtium and for the work that I've seen be really effective over my career is really more people and organizations that really, really value their people and who end up saying, we believe so much in the development of our people. We believe that our people are truly the unlock to our organization continuing to grow and becoming where we want to achieve, like achieving that space. And it's really those companies that say at the center of what we want to do, we want to create a human-centered experience. And at Thoughtium, that's what we do, is we design and deliver these incredible human-centered experiences. And that takes a certain type of company to say that we really want to spend the time and take the initiative and really take the investment as well to create that really powerful, memorable experience that individuals end up saying over the course of their career, like, I remember that time that this team came in and they helped us with our sales kickoff, or I remember that leadership development program that I was a part of that entirely changed the way that I go about giving feedback or the way that I communicate with other people, or even that gave me the awareness to understand how I show up differently in the world. And I think that it takes a certain kind of unique organization to say, we really want to do this right. We want to do it right by our people, and we want to take the time to craft this solution together. And that's the kinds of companies that I love to work with. So it's not necessarily in a certain industry or space, but it's really the driving factor behind what is it that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to your focus in businesses development of you start with the people, the relationship, and you're finding organizations that also value that more than like what's the solution or thing that we're gonna help drive. It's the experience, it's the connection, and that piece of it all.
100%. Yeah.
You make me think of a few like personal examples with some of our clients where I can tell that we leave a lasting impact because their language shifts in a way. It's like, I know you'll hear other people say like create the space and so forth, but like that's just one phrase that like I'll hear our clients use. And even one in particular, a client says, I'm having a Thoughtium moment. And the team all around her says, oh, okay, I know where you're going. Our ears are perked. So it's cool to leave that lasting impression. And we're so excited to have you a part of the team to do exactly that.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here and to be working with just such incredible humans. It's a really fun and unique team to be part of.
Yeah, it sure is. So one role that you have, business development, what other roles do you play in the world?
I'm also a mom. I've got two kids who are now officially 10 and 11, which is crazy to me because they are both in double digits. So they're not so little anymore. I still think of them as my little kids, and my baby's now 10. So not so much.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. I feel I don't have any children, but I could just imagine like how quickly they grow and just things shift. And every day it's like, oh, you're learning a new thing about them. I'm curious, like, what are some, I know you came into Thoughtium with a very much of an experience, like led mindset, you focus on the people and the impact that you have on them. How does that show up in your like day-to-day role as a mom?
It shows up in I think it shows up in a lot of different ways, but there are two pieces in particular that come to mind. One is, I think that experiences are really important and they really matter in our lives. A lot of times it's those moments of connection that we remember far more than anything else. And so a number of years ago, I made the switch from, instead of having birthdays for my kids be centered around presents and getting more things, which most kids already have a ton of things, I moved to having experience-based birthdays where my kids get to choose what is it that they want to experience during the day together. And that's really what their gift is. And so that has looked in a lot of different ways. One year, my son wanted to help feed children who didn't have access to food, which was a really cool experience that I was not anticipating. They've wanted to go to elephant wildlife sanctuaries. They've wanted to go experience Legoland. And this past year, my daughter wanted to go to one of her favorite local bookstores and go to the bookstore and then go have some coffee and then have some homemade food. And so it's just really a neat way for them to express themselves, and then also for us to have that shared experience together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I even think about, the psychology behind experiences where the more you use your senses, the more likely you'll remember it and it'll have more of a lasting impact. And to your point, like material stuff, like it can't really hit home the same way that those sorts of experiences do.
No, it's interesting too, because the other thing that came to mind when you asked, how do I create experiences within my day-to-day world? The other piece that came to mind is a couple of years ago, I created what were called safe spaces in my kids' rooms and in my room, which was this cozy corner for them to, if they needed an emotional break or just needed to take a few minutes to themselves, they could step back and step away and then go sit in that cozy corner full of things that just made them feel really comfortable and safe. And then I ended up creating one in my room too, to really one, show them that I was living the same way that I was encouraging them to, but also to just create that safety within the home, which I think is both so important for kids and their experiences, but I think is also really important in team experiences and in team dynamics, to have that level of safety and trust to be able to really dig into some of those harder pieces and navigating through some other challenges that teams face often.
Oh, I want to go make my own cozy corner right now.
I highly
I want
recommend.
that so bad.
I love mine. It's fantastic.
I love that, because what you're doing is you're normalizing the human experience, right? There are a wide range of feelings that we are supposed to feel, and how often, like I don't know if it's our culture or, that's a topic for another day, but we are expected to only feel certain ways and in certain settings, and the opportunity that you give them to have a little space for all of it, and even just leave it there, like sometimes you just need to let it out, and that's incredible. So you brought up also that you see this show up in teams. Do you
Yeah.
have any experiences that you want to share with our viewers of how you've brought this, like maybe it's trust, psychological safety, or just safe spaces, if you will, into the workplace?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways that can look. One of the experiences that comes to mind is one where there was a team that was they were having some challenges working well together, because they had a lot of different generations that were all trying to work together. And what was happening, so they had a range of generations. There were 4 different generations on this team, and to oversimplify the challenge, essentially the different generations were kind of blaming other generations for certain unique qualities that are stereotypical to experience within that different dynamic. And so what we did was we actually created a time for this team to all come together and to start to verbalize some of those different pieces, because what was happening is there was a lot of blame that was going on in the team, and they weren't actually able to get through all the muck. And when that kind of stuff is being brought up in different team dynamics, it can create some defensiveness or some frustration. And so what we did was we had a space in the back, so that as different folks were sharing their different challenges and things, if somebody felt there's some defensiveness that was coming up, they would actually go to the space in the back and put their sticky on of like what they were feeling and what was coming up for them, to try to start to normalize across the board what the experience was across the team, recognizing that yes, there were frustrations that different folks were having around working styles or communication styles. But at the end of the day, they were all kind of experiencing similar frustrations with each other, which really normalized the fact that we're all experiencing this together. And at the end of the day, we actually all really want the same thing. It's just how we're going about doing that right now that looks a little bit different. But if we can align on what it is that we're trying to achieve together, and also humanize each other, because a lot of times when you're in that frustrated place, it can be really easy to miss the human that's there with you. And they were able to share some of that in a much more safe environment than what was created just in the day-to-day trying to get work done. And it ended up being a really, really powerful experience of people seeing things from another perspective and understanding that just because they were experiencing a conversation or an idea one way, they were able to really broaden the horizon and see there were a range of different ways that different people from different generations were experiencing that, and could actually hear even some of the differences of like when people grew up or circumstances that they grew up in that then were impacting how different conversations or work getting done was happening. And so it was a really, really neat way to create the space for that team to have some conversations in a way that they hadn't before.
Wow. I feel lighter just listening to it. I could only imagine those going through the experience, especially for generations. Like how often do you get that much range in diversity, right? So it's recognizing that everyone's perspective can be true.
Yep.
And there's just some layers to unpack. And I love that the exercise was kind of very tactical in nature. It's just like journaling, right? Like once you write down the thoughts and their feelings, you kind of create some distance from it.
Mm-hmm.
And you allowed them to do that and see, actually, like my thoughts, feelings aren't that different from other people, maybe in my generation or in another.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what was so cool about it was it really normalized the experience because so many people had similar frustrations or fears. It was just that they were all coming out in a different way, which created a sense of disunity. But at the end of the day, it actually was able to integrate into we're all having a similar experience and we all kind of want the same thing.
So cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So I have another question for you before we go into our rapid fire round.
Okay.
So because again, you've been with the company going on 2 months.
Yeah.
Maybe for our viewers and our team members listening in, what's something that our team doesn't know about you that you think would be important or valuable for them to know?
Ooh. So I would say at this point, the team probably has gathered that I'm quite a curious person. I ask a lot of questions, but the intention behind that might not always be so clear, which really is I ask so many questions because I really want to understand what is underneath something and kind of what's underneath it from a lot of different layers. So sometimes I ask a lot of questions and it can come across as like I'm digging, and I'm actually digging to really try to understand like what's underneath that. Where did it come from? Why is that so important to you? And then how do I kind of internalize that and carry it forward? And so where it may sometimes come across as am I really asking that many questions? It's genuinely coming from a place of truly being curious and really seeking to understand first and trying not to make assumptions about things that I've seen before or ways that I could interpret something, but really wanting to get down to the bottom of it from that particular individual.
Yeah. You know, what's coming up for me is when we did your type coach assessment. So a lot of our viewers have either heard about it once or twice, but a similar, assessment off of Myers-Briggs. When we walked through yours, I remember some of the insights where you're a natural connector and you kind of create your own mental model or concept. So you're not necessarily like poking holes at someone's, project or idea. It's you getting that much deeper into it so you can make your own connections in your own like frame of reference, if you will, in your head.
Yep, absolutely. Or to be able to relate it to something else that I've seen in another space and really wanting to personalize it for myself.
Yeah, it's such a gift. And not everyone on our team has that. So I love viewers. What we're doing right now is normalizing some of like the things that we do that are strengths. But if you don't ask the questions, you might think that it's something a little out of the norm, I guess, or a little, yeah. Very good. Okay. So with our last few minutes, are you ready for a rapid fire round?
I mean, I'm as ready as I'll be.
All right. So when I say rapid fire, it doesn't mean that you have to answer very quickly. For me, like what a good rapid fire question offers is like, oh, I've never thought of that. So take your time. There's no right or wrong answer. No pressure. First question, your favorite day of the week and why?
Ooh. I'm going to say Saturday is my favorite day of the week because it's the only day that is you're not necessarily winding something down and you're not necessarily beginning something again. And so it really allows for, at least for me, to be truly present in the moment. I feel like a lot of other days I end up feeling like I'm being pulled in a number of different directions or trying to do a number of different things. But Saturdays I can just truly look at the day and say, okay, if I don't have to be anywhere, I don't have to do anything. What do I want to do today? What do the kids and I want to do today? And what does that look like?
We need more Saturdays because I agree with you. Just having one of those days, we need a few more.
I
We
agree.
need a few more. I love the answer. Again, no right or wrong answer, but I'm with you on that one. Okay, second question for you. One thing that you're reading, watching, or listening to.
Ooh. So I just finished this book. Does that count?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, good. So it is a book called The Anxious Generation, and it is written by a gentleman who is basically talking about how specifically the technology revolution and social media ended up creating heightened anxiety, specifically in girls ages 11 through 18 or so, and have continued to do so. It does impact boys as well, and he talks through that from a video game perspective. But it is a really fascinating read, a really kind of tough read, and one that has at least made me rethink a lot of how do I parent in a way that both sets my kids up for success, given some of that reality, but also recognizes that if you're disassociated from social media, a lot of times that creates other kinds of challenges specifically for kids today. So it's kind of this catch-22 that you find yourself in, but it's a very enlightening read, but not a light read.
Mm-hmm. Both can be true.
Yes.
I'll put it on my list. That's a good one. Okay. Next question. What is your favorite seat on an airplane?
Oh, I love this question.
I knew you would.
My favorite seat. Okay, I'm gonna make a lot of people really uncomfortable right now, so I'm just gonna call that out. My favorite seat on an airplane is the middle seat, because it means that I have two captive audiences of friends that I can make during that flight. And if one of them ends up being grumpy and does not want to be friends, or is wearing those big headphones, which, yes, I'm sure a lot of you listening are the ones who put on those big headphones hoping that somebody like me will I do respect that. It just means that then maybe I have somebody else on the other side who's not wearing the big headphones who I can talk with and become friends with.
Uh-huh. Oh, I love it. That was planted, everybody. She didn't know, but we've had this conversation before and it resonated because I'm a sucker for the middle seat too. And I wish I want to talk to our leadership team. If we ever hire more people in business development, I feel like that's a good question on an interview.
I agree.
Because there's things to unpack there. Okay.
There is.
So good. All right. My last question for you. So I want you to think of a quality about yourself that you admire and let me know when you have it.
Okay.
Okay. And you have to fill in the blank. If the world were more like Ashley, it would be.
Oh man, my quality. I don't know that it fits in there.
Let's hear it anyway.
So if the world was more like Ashley, then people would be more committed to creating a life that they really love for themselves.
Oh, intentionality.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Ashley. Everyone, you just got a little taste of our head of business development here at Thoughtium. This was episode 199, part of our Meet the Team series. You are all better be looking in or getting excited for, our episode 200, which will be next Thursday at 3 p.m. Central. You can find us at thoughtium.com/live. Thank you.